Alright, 2.6, dividing decimals. I'm going to list the steps on how to divide them, and then we'll do some practice with dividing them. So the first step is to place the decimal point in the quotient above the decimal point in the dividend, like this. So that's all you're doing, is you're taking that decimal point and you're putting it straight up. The second step is to divide as you would with whole numbers. And the third step is to continue until there is no remainder. So example 1 is dividing decimals by whole numbers. So taking those 3 steps we learned and dividing it out, just like this. If you're given 7 6/10 divided by 4, you would set it up just like this. 7 6/10 divided by 4. The first thing you do is move the decimal straight up in the quotient. So it goes straight up. We put it right there. Then you just divide like you normally would. So 4 goes into 7 one time. 4 times 1 is 4. Subtract it out, I get 3. I bring down my 6. 4 goes into 36 9 times. Notice how everything stays above where it was. 4 times 9 is 36, and then we just divide until we get to no remainders. So basically the only difference here is taking whatever your decimal is here and moving it straight up. That's all you do when you're dividing decimals by whole numbers. So we can try this one. So you have 4 38/100 divided by 12. The first step you do is you move the decimal straight up, and then you do the work as you normally would. 12 goes into 4 0 times. You can do your 0 out. You got your 4, you bring down your 3. 12 can go into 43 3 times. 12 times 3 is 36. Subtract it out. You should have 7 left over. Bring down your 8. 12 goes into 78 6 times. 12 times 6 is 72. You come out with 6 remainder. And here's where you add a 0. Bring down your 0. And now I have 60. 12 goes into 60 5 times. Now here is the thing. It says place the decimal point in the quotient above the decimal. So we did that right here. Then we insert a 0 to continue to divide. And I'm going to jot that down. Because it's a decimal, we have to do this. If we're going to keep adding a 0 until we finally get to a place where we can't anymore. So every time you're just going to continuously add zeros until you can't divide anymore. Example 2 is dividing decimals. So now we're going to divide decimal by decimal. So here are the steps to complete that. So the first step seems a little confusing. So listen, multiply the divisor and the dividend by a power of 10 to make the divisor a whole number. So this is what I mean. I'm going to choose the power of 10 because basically what I'm doing is I'm going to say 1 2/10 times 10 is just going to simply have me move my decimal point one place to the right. So this becomes a whole number. So it says multiply the divisor and the dividend by a power of 10. If I do it out here, I have to do it inside. So I'm going to multiply 4 and 56/100 by 10. So what's that going to do is move my decimal here. The basic idea here is to get your divisor to be a whole number. So then you just continue your steps like normal. You take your decimal and you put it straight up to where it belongs, and then you divide like normal. And then the rest of the steps are as follows. Place the decimal point in the quotient above the decimal point in the dividend, and then divide as you would with whole numbers. So Basically, all you have to do is move that decimal over to make it a whole number. If I'm given a problem like this, 18 and 2/10 divided by 1 and 4/10, I'm going to start by rewriting it out. So I have 18 and 2/10 divided by 1 and 4/10. So my main idea here is to get my 1 and 4/10 to be a whole number. In order to do that, all I'm going to do is multiply it, basically, is how they present it, is multiply it by a power of 10, or say, let's move my decimal over one place so it becomes 14, but if I do it here, you have to do it here. So I'm going to move it over one place. It's basically like I multiplied it by 10. So then, we start fresh. I'm just going to rewrite it below it. Now I have 182, keep that decimal there, divided by 14. Because regardless, I have to put my decimal place straight up. That's what my next step says. Then I can start dividing normally. So 14 goes into 1 0 times. 14 goes into 18 one time. 18 minus 14 gives me 4. Bring down my 2. 14 goes into 42 3 whole times. 14 times 3 is 42. 0. So I don't have any remainder. And even if your answer looks like this, the answer is 13. Think about where your decimal is. Even though I told you to leave it, you never know. I might have had to use another 0 and bring it down, but I didn't in this case. So in this case, we have a little bit different. So write out your problem like you normally would. We have 273 thousandths. You can keep in that 0 if you want. You don't have to. Divided by 39 hundredths. This time we're going to be multiplying by a power of 100 because we have to move our decimal place 2 places. It's like multiplying it with the 2 zeros. That's the point of it. So now I just have 39. So I'm going to move this 1, 2 places. And my decimal will go straight up into my dividend. Then I have to, if it helps you to rewrite it from this point, or you don't make your little lines underneath, I always like to rewrite it. But now I have 27 and 3/10 divided by 39. I keep my decimal up there. And now I can just divide how I normally would. 39 goes into 27, 0 times. You could do your multiplying if you want, or your subtraction if you want. Then you bring down your 3. 39 goes into 273, 7 full times. And it ends up equaling 273, you get a 0. And like I said, keeping that decimal up there, so your answer to a problem like this is 7/10.